Labour have a very difficult relationship with trans people. In lots of ways, they are very progressive and significantly better than the Conservative government that we had previously, but in some ways, they are attempting to court the right-wing voter, and when it comes to attacking or ignoring people, trans people are often first on the list in the same way that gay and lesbian people were back in like the 80s and 90s. We are unfortunately the weak link, and for whatever reason, we have become the latest hot-button topic. So I have great hope for the trans rights movement under the Labour government. I certainly know that there are lots of MPs who will go out there to bat for us, such as Nadia Whittome, who are a Labour MP here at Nottingham. But call me sceptical until I see actual change.
Back to the Gender Recognition Act itself, what elements of the Act do you think need more work?
The Gender Recognition Act was a groundbreaking piece of legislation in the UK, but it is now incredibly dated and reality probably needs an entire rewrite because it is no longer up to date with what we would consider the normal trans experience. The Gender Recognition Act is very much grounded in the old trans medicalist idea that trans people were only valid if they sought medical transition. This is a very old school idea that was very ingrained into the UK's LGBTQ community for a long time, but also the general understanding of what a trans person was. And we just don't have that understanding anymore. There is a reason why we've moved away from the word transsexual, which indicates somebody who is undergoing medical assistance to transitioning their gender, to transgender, which is just somebody who has an acquired gender. Because of the need to include medical and legal experts in the board to get that gender recognition certificate, it is still incredibly grounded in there. And ultimately, it means that our gender transition is only validated if we conform to a series of presumably cis people's understanding of gender. We need to move away from that, and we should in reality move towards a self-ID system that has been adopted in quite a few countries now to great success. Additionally, it is still an incredibly binary document. There are still only two gender markers you can have, male and female, and that completely ignores the existence of non-binary people and their need for validity within the community and within society as a whole. This is actually a much wider issue, the fact that you can't get non-binary or X markers on things like passports or within your bank and such. So that is a much wider issue, but ultimately it is still grounded in the Gender Recognition Act of 2004. When the Gender Recognition Act came into law, same-sex marriage was not legal at the time. That meant in order for lots of people to transition, they had to have their marriages annulled because they were in ostensibly straight presenting marriages at the time that would go to gay presenting marriages. It is hard not to feel attacked or brought down by the constant politicization of trans people. It has been an ongoing battle. I mean, for years and decades in reality, but it really has come to a head with the more extreme politics that have emerged in the last 10 years. However, it always gives me at least a certain amount of hope that we have seen this cycle before. Both gay individuals and lesbian individuals and other civil rights movements before that have gone through this extreme attack of people existing for a long time, then becoming the political hot topic of the moment, and then acceptance by the wider community. We are in the storm at the moment as trans people. We are the hot topic of the day. People are attacking us, and I take a lot of solace knowing that eventually we will come out of the storm, because in reality, people who appeal to these hot button topics are appealing to the worst of society, and the worst of society don't represent what society actually feels. It's an ebb and flow. We may go back and forth, but eventually we will achieve acceptance. Ultimately, if you look back at history, history is cyclic, particularly when it comes to civil rights movements. When women were going for the vote, they were vilified as wanting to become men and to exclude people and quote-unquote ignore their household duties. When it came to the civil rights movement for African Americans and black folk generally, they were vilified as brutish, thugs, violent, and were coming to attack white women. Gay men have been portrayed as perverts and trying to attack and recruit children. All of this is false. And ultimately, trans people who are being demonized as perverts and disingenuous and recruiting children into their sinister agenda, it is just the same thing recycled over and over again. All of it is wrong, and we will eventually get that liberation and acceptance that we deserve in the same way that all of those other groups have. I'm not saying, however, that all of those groups have achieved equality. Clearly they haven't. It is a long road. It is a fight we all must have.
How can trans visibility be improved?
Over the last 10 years, trans people have been gradually gaining more and more visible to the world. But ultimately, to really turbocharge that, we again need to look to the movements of the past to understand how we can gain that acceptance. It can't be overstated how important visibility of prominent people in both celebrity and political stances are to gaining acceptance for a movement. If you look back at the 90s, people like Ellen and shows like Will and Grace that portrayed gay people as normal human beings outside of their sexuality really were key to becoming accepted to the general world. Trans people are currently in the middle of that. We are in the middle of our quote-unquote 90s. Once we start to see people in media that are trans people whose shtick isn't that they are trans, it is that they are people, then people will begin to recognise that we are not just our gender. In the same way that once we get trans voices into politics, into business, into society, who are not just there because they are trans, but because they care about other things, because they are part of the society that they are trying to govern and shape, that is how we will get exposure, it is how we will get acceptance going forward.
Can you tell me your best or favourite memory within the Nottingham LGBTQ+ community?
My favourite memory so far has been marching in the first Nottingham Transgender Pride. It was an absolutely miserable day. It was pouring it down, but still hundreds of people gathered and marched, shouting and singing throughout the city and coming to a halt in the main square and listening to a series of roaring speeches. I was there with a group of incredibly close friends, marching and shouting along. It is not very often that I feel truly seen by a large group of people, but there in that moment I felt seen, and it was amazing. I want to have more memories like that. I don't want that to be my best memory. I want us to fight and to be seen and to shout, but for now, that's my favourite memory.